Today's case took place in 2015 in the city of Chifeng, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China. Around 9 p.m. on March 20th, 2015, the Chifeng City 110 Command Center received a distress call. A panicked woman told the dispatcher that someone was trying to shoot her. When asked who was trying to kill her, the answer left them shocked. She said it was Zhao Liping. Zhao Liping was a name everyone in Inner Mongolia's police force knew well. He was the former director of public security for Inner Mongolia. Though retired, he was still a highly respected figure in the force. How could a retired, esteemed officer commit such a crime in broad daylight? At the same time, another emergency call came in. A trembling man pleaded for help. "I'm at the right side of the Chaobei Expressway toll station in Hongshan District. A woman with snow covering her face just hijacked my car. She said someone was trying to kill her." 8 minutes after receiving the report, 2 officers from the Hongshan District Public Security Bureau arrived at the Chaobei toll station and met the man, Mr. Zhang. He detailed what had just happened. "I had just stepped out of my car at the toll station when a young woman, disheveled and covered in snow, blocked my way. She opened my car door and tearfully begged, 'Please help me. Someone just shot at me and wants to kill me.' My wife and daughter were still in the car, and we panicked. We hurried out of the car and told her to call the police. She cried, saying there wasn't enough time. I turned around and saw a man in uniform aiming a gun at me, saying not to interfere in their family matters. We were terrified and tried to avoid him. Then, unexpectedly, the woman got into my white Kia and sped off. The man in uniform also drove after her." After finishing his statement, Mr. Zhang pointed in the direction the woman had driven off. Seeing the report was credible and that someone's life was in danger, the police immediately sent officers to the scene and reviewed surveillance cameras to locate the woman's car. By around 9:30 p.m., through surveillance footage, they found the white car entering the Baihe residential area in Chifeng City. The police quickly mobilized and set up checkpoints to apprehend Zhao Liping. That night, Zhao Liping had been driving a black Audi, chasing after the woman. When her car entered the residential area and stopped, he quickly jumped out of his Audi and shot her in the head. He then stuffed her body into the trunk and sped out of the neighborhood. The police arrived too late. The woman who had reported the crime was already dead. Who was the murdered woman, and what kind of conflict led to this horrific crime? To understand, we need to know who Zhao Liping was. Zhao Liping, former director of public security of Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, was born in 1951 in Jianping County, Chaoyang City, Liaoning Province. In 1969, at the age of 18, he was sent to Dali Commune in Jilin Province as part of the Youth Volunteer Program. The following year, he became a worker at an education printing factory in Jilin, now part of Tongliao, Inner Mongolia. From July 1969 to July 1979, he was placed on Jilin's provincial payroll. Had he continued on this path, Zhao Liping might have led a quiet life. However, one event completely altered his fate, propelling him from an ordinary worker to a successful political career. One day, while heading home after his shift, Zhao encountered a group of thugs harassing a young woman. Acting out of chivalry, he intervened. Despite his martial arts skills, Zhao couldn't fend off the group and was quickly beaten down. The thugs, fearing they might have killed him, fled the scene. At first, Zhao thought little of the heroic rescue, but when he learned the identity of the girl he had saved, his outlook changed. It turned out that her father was a high-ranking official in Inner Mongolia, a realization that made Zhao see his life standing at a crossroads. Coincidentally, the rescued girl developed feelings for the brave young man. While Zhao was recovering in the hospital, she visited him regularly. It was then that Zhao decided to seize this opportunity for social advancement and began pursuing her with great enthusiasm. Not long after, the two became romantically involved. However, a boy from a humble background like Zhao faced strong opposition from the girl's family. Zhao, however, had anticipated this and was prepared. He knew that if his girlfriend became pregnant, her family would be forced to accept their relationship. When the girl eventually became pregnant and insisted on staying with Zhao, her father reluctantly agreed to the marriage. In June 1972, using his connections, the girl's father secured Zhao a job as an investigator at the Public Security Bureau of Zhelimu Autonomous Prefecture. Zhao cherished this opportunity. He knew that his entry into law enforcement was due to his family connections, and without proving his worth, even his father-in-law's powerful influence couldn't help him. Zhao dedicated himself to learning, spending much of his free time studying criminal knowledge and improving his skills. From May to December 1978, he studied crime scene investigation at the Ministry of Public Security's People's Police School. Even today, graduates of this program are highly sought after, let alone back then. After completing the course, Zhao was transferred to the Criminal Investigation Division as an investigator in July 1979. He continued to pursue his education, studying literature at Inner Mongolia Radio and Television University from September 1982 to October 1985. After graduating, he participated in a short-term political and legal training course at the Inner Mongolia Party School from October 1985 to January 1986. During this period, Zhao's career progressed rapidly. From November 1983 to December 1984, he served as Deputy Director of the Criminal Investigation Division and Director of the Secretariat of Zhelimu Autonomous Prefecture's Public Security Bureau. From December 1984 to August 1990, he was Deputy Director of the Public Security Bureau. By 1990, at the age of 39, Zhao had moved from his previous post to the Administration Office of the Public Security Bureau. Then, from October 1991 to July 1992, he served as the Chief of the Criminal Investigation Division. From July 1992 to February 1994, he was the Director of the Public Security Bureau's General Office. From February 1994 to March 2005, he became a party committee member and Deputy Director of the Public Security Bureau, promoted to bureau level in March 2000. In just 28 years, Zhao climbed from a junior investigator to a bureau chief. By March 2005, he was appointed Deputy Party Secretary and Director of Public Security. In May 2010, he was promoted again, becoming Vice Chairman of the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, Party Secretary, and Director of Public Security. In September that same year, Zhao was promoted to Deputy Chief Superintendent, the highest rank in China's police system. From bureau chief to deputy minister in just 10 years, Zhao's career was still far from its peak. His other titles included Chairman of the Inner Mongolia Public Security Literary Federation, Standing Member of the National Public Security Literary Federation, Standing Member of the Chinese Public Literature Research Association, and Vice Chairman of the Inner Mongolia Public Literature Research Association. Zhao was also an acclaimed writer under the pen name Gaomu Xiansheng. In 1998, he became a member of the Chinese Writers Association. A 2000 article published in People's Police magazine praised Zhao Liping as a brave, dedicated, candid, and straightforward police officer, calling his work a radiant sight in police literature, and commending him for being a prolific writer, rare in law enforcement. But how did such a successful man with a family become involved with a younger woman, leading to such a tragic outcome? Despite Zhao's meteoric rise in his career, much of it was due to his father-in-law. At home, he was always respectful and obedient to his wife. However, as his social status grew, the disparity between how he was treated at home and in public began to affect him. Men often crave admiration and the fulfillment of their desire to conquer. At this time, a young woman named Jiayi entered his life. Born in 1988, she was 37 years younger than Zhao. The two met in 2006 when Zhao was 55 and Li was just 18. Their meeting wasn't exactly a proud moment. At the time, there was a trend in Kaifeng known as selling books. This wasn't about selling actual books, but was instead code for women offering themselves to wealthy men. Some young women would acquire the phone numbers of officials and businessmen, offering themselves to them. In 2006, 18-year-old Li Jiayi, with limited education and a modest family background, was drawn into this trend in search of a shortcut to a better life. That's how she crossed paths with Zhao Liping. At this point, despite Zhao's high status, he was still eager to prove himself. When Jiayi, with her youthful beauty, approached him, Zhao felt as if he had found a new lease on life. Their relationship quickly developed, and they became lovers. Jiayi's financial needs and Zhao's desire for admiration created a complex, fast-moving, but risky relationship. At this point, Zhao's career was on the rise, and with a young, gentle lover by his side, he felt like he was living a dream. He spoiled Jiayi, spending freely on her and fulfilling almost all her requests. He even used his own money to open a clothing store for her. By 2008, Jiayi had purchased a new apartment in the Baihei neighborhood of Chifeng City. There were controversies surrounding how she managed to afford it. Some claimed that Zhao had provided the funds, while others believed it was a wedding gift for Jiayi's younger brother, but temporarily registered in her name. To this day, it's unclear which version is true. According to villagers in Jiayi's hometown, they didn't know what she did in the city, but they recalled a year when she returned driving a black car, which made them realize she had made a significant amount of money. Despite the sudden wealth of this young woman, no one knew exactly how Jiayi had achieved such a lifestyle. This was undoubtedly a high point for both Zhao and Jiayi. Zhao's career was at its peak, and Jiayi was living in material luxury. Their relationship, while based on a mutual exchange of benefits, seemed to be working for them. However, the good times didn't last. In November 2013, Zhao Liping retired, and the fragile balance in their relationship began to break down. Zhao was no longer able to maintain the same level of financial generosity. Noticing that her needs were no longer being met, Jiayi's attitude shifted as well. She stopped being as obedient and at times even ridiculed him. This deeply hurt Zhao's pride, making him feel that his dignity was being trampled on once again. As a result, he began to distance himself from Jiayi and reduced the number of times they met. Seeing Zhao grow more distant, Jiayi realized that their relationship was coming to an end. But not wanting to walk away empty-handed, she decided to find a way to extract more from the relationship. She started to charm and coax Zhao back into coming to her home. When Zhao called, she still answered as she usually would, but this time she secretly carried a recording device, collecting evidence of Zhao's involvement in illegal activities, including bribery. At first, due to her youth and inexperience, Jiayi wasn't sure how to use the evidence she had gathered, so she didn't confront Zhao directly. The situation only escalated when Jiayi discovered that Zhao had another mistress, for whom he had even purchased a home. This revelation enraged her, prompting her to confront Zhao. In early 2015, Jiayi invited Zhao over to her place and played him the recordings she had collected. As he listened, Zhao broke out in a cold sweat, realizing the danger he was in. At the end of 2014, rumors had already circulated within the Inner Mongolia Public Security Bureau about a pending investigation into Zhao. There were reports that he had been restricted from leaving the country due to involvement in a bribery case amounting to 1.3 million yuan. With these concerns weighing on him, the threat of the recordings being exposed added an extra layer of fear, making Zhao believe he wouldn't be able to avoid prison. He realized he was facing a serious crisis that could destroy his career and life. This was the final blow for Zhao, and in desperation, he sought to appease Jiayi. On February 25, 2015, he wrote her an IOU for 3 million yuan, promising to pay by March 8th with a 20% interest rate if he missed the deadline. However, Jiayi couldn't have predicted that in Zhao's experienced eyes, she was merely a small player in his game. Having been through many years of maneuvering within the political world, Zhao knew more tricks than Jiayi could ever imagine. He never intended to pay her. It wasn't that he didn't have the money. He believed that if he gave in this time, he would face endless blackmail in the future. So after writing the IOU, Zhao never brought up the money again. Time quickly passed, and the deadline approached. Jiayi began pressing Zhao for the money, continuing to threaten him with the recordings. Over the course of a month, Zhao had devised a plan. He told her that his superiors were conducting intense investigations, so he couldn't directly transfer the money into her account. Instead, he promised to deliver the cash in person on March 20th, near the end of the month. Jiayi, eager to get her money, was blinded by the anticipation of wealth and didn't suspect anything. During this brief period, Zhao made several trips from Hohhot to Chifeng to survey potential locations. He also acquired 2 guns, gasoline, a shovel, an axe, rope, and other materials. Zhao even disguised his black Audi by not only putting fake license plates on it, but also decorating the car with cartoon stickers. From the outside, no one would have suspected that it belonged to a 60-year-old man. It looked more like a vehicle owned by someone much younger. On March 20th, Zhao donned a military uniform, sunglasses, and a hat, and arranged to meet Jiayi near Danyuquan Mountain in Songshan District, next to Provincial Road 205 in Chifeng City. Danyuquan Mountain was the place Zhao had chosen as Jiayi's final resting place. When Jiayi got into the car, she noticed that Zhao hadn't brought any money. She threatened him once again with the recorded files. At that moment, Zhao pulled out a handgun and fired 3 shots, but he missed. Panicked, Jiayi opened the car door and tried to run. Zhao quickly grabbed a knife from his pocket and stabbed her, but the wound wasn't fatal. This ignited Jiayi's will to survive, and she kept running. Zhao jumped out of the car and chased after her. After running for about 100 meters, he caught up with Jiayi. By this point, Zhao had lost all control and struck her head repeatedly with the butt of his gun, over a dozen times. However, forensic results later showed that Jiayi's skull was thicker than average, so she didn't die from the blows. Believing he had killed her, Zhao went back to the car to retrieve it and planned to drag her body away. In the meantime, Jiayi managed to crawl up the slope to the provincial road. When Zhao realized what was happening, he drove after her. However, the slope was too steep for the car, forcing Zhao to take a longer route. During this time, Jiayi stood in the middle of the road, screaming for help. At that moment, a white car carrying a family of 3 stopped. This was the scene mentioned earlier, where the driver reported the incident to the police. Upon entering the car, Jiayi saw a phone and immediately used it to call 110. By this point, she was in such a state of panic that she couldn't think clearly. Her survival instincts led her to drive to the one place she felt was safe, Baihe, the neighborhood where she lived. This time, when Zhao caught up with her, he was determined not to give Jiayi another chance at life. He pulled up in front of her and fired 2 more shots. Li Jiayi, only 26 years old at the time, died on the spot. Zhao then stuffed her body into the trunk and drove to Danyuquan Mountain, the place he had previously scouted. He poured gasoline on her body and set it on fire before descending the mountain, disposing of the murder weapons along Provincial Road 205 and burying the 2 guns. Zhao Liping knew he couldn't escape, but perhaps he still held on to a shred of hope. That night, he probably found it impossible to sleep. The police, too, endured a tense night. After a night of searching, they eventually located Jiayi's burned body in a shallow pit on Danyuquan Mountain. At dawn on March 21st, officers holding Zhao's photograph began scouring Danyuquan Mountain. Along Provincial Road 205, they found the victim's handbag, a blood-stained car seat, a shovel, and an axe. By around 7 p.m., they discovered Jiayi's charred and buried remains in a pit on Danyuquan Mountain. Further up the mountain, they found 2 guns and 49 bullets Zhao had hidden beneath a rock. During their search, they also traced Zhao's movements. A man named Yang lived on Danyuquan Mountain, herding sheep. To prevent theft, Yang had installed several cameras around his property. Thanks to these cameras, the police not only captured images of Zhao walking back and forth surveying the area, but they also uncovered Zhao's movements after the crime and where he had burned the body. Following this trail, the police eventually caught up with Zhao Liping in Keshikateng County, 155 miles from Chifeng, early on March 22nd. When officers stopped him, Zhao did not resist. He turned off the car and surrendered immediately, offering a bitter smile and saying, "The Chifeng police are fast." The scene was deeply ironic. After his capture, Zhao Liping seemed to accept his fate. He made his confession clearly and concisely, but refused to disclose the origin of the 2 guns. The following day, police also confiscated 91 detonators illegally stored in Zhao's office. Like with the guns, he refused to reveal where they came from. Zhao Liping's case shocked the public. A respected public security official had become a criminal. The investigation didn't stop at murder, but also revealed numerous other issues tied to Zhao, including bribery, illegal fundraising, and abuse of power. All these charges were thoroughly investigated by the authorities. In its verdict, the Supreme People's Court confirmed Zhao Liping's grave offenses. Specifically, on the night of March 20th, 2015, Zhao Liping used a gun to kill Li Jiayi, a 26-year-old Woma in Chaifeng, Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. Additionally, between 2008 and 2010, while serving as director of the Public Security Bureau of Inner Mongolia, Zhao Liping exploited his position to accept bribes from various companies and individuals. These bribes totaled 23.68 million yuan. He used his influence to interfere with issues like stock sales, project tenders, and promotions. On March 21, 2015, after investigating the crime scene where Zhao had killed and disposed of the body, police recovered a revolver, a Type 64 handgun, and 49 bullets that Zhao had hidden. On March 23rd, during a search of Zhao's office on the second floor of the police training center in Inner Mongolia, authorities discovered 91 illegally stored detonators in a safe. The Supreme People's Court ruled that Zhao Liping had unlawfully taken a person's life and that his actions constituted murder. As a public official, he had also taken advantage of his position to seek personal gain, accepting large sums of illegal payments, which amounted to bribery. Furthermore, Zhao violated firearms regulations, illegally possessing 2 guns and 49 rounds of ammunition. His actions also extended to the illegal storage of 91 detonators, which constituted the illegal possession of explosives. The murder Zhao Liping committed was particularly heinous, characterized by extreme cruelty and significant harm to society. His crimes were serious and merited severe punishment according to the law. Zhao's acceptance of 23.68 million yuan in bribes was an especially large amount, and his illegal possession of firearms and explosives was a further aggravating factor. All of these crimes required a comprehensive legal response. Finally, on the morning of May 26, 2017, the Intermediate People's Court of Taiyuan City in Shanxi Province carried out Zhao Liping's death sentence, as ordered by the Supreme People's Court. Zhao Liping had once spoken to the press in 2009 about the importance of being a good person. At the time, he said, "I believe that if you can't be a good person, you certainly can't be a good party member. You definitely won't be a good official, and you absolutely won't be a good police officer. Human nature has its weaknesses, everyone has them. You have to be a good person, one who contributes to society and doesn't cause harm. When young people enter society, their first principle should be to live upright, decent lives." Yet, just 6 years after making these statements, Zhao Liping was arrested for murder, leading to the tragic downfall of his life and career. This outcome was a profound irony. The Zhao Liping case was not just a personal tragedy, but a costly lesson for society. It exposed the dark side behind the glamour of power and money, and highlighted the severe consequences of corruption and moral decay. And that's the story for today. What are your thoughts on this case? Feel free to share them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.